Greetings to one and all in the precious name of our Lord Jesus. For the morning message, I want to turn your attention to the Gospel of Luke, chapter 10, verses from 38 to 42. The Gospel of Luke, chapter 10, verses from 38 to 42. Now it happened as they went that he entered a certain village, and a certain woman named Martha welcomed him into her house. And she had a sister called Mary, who also sat at Jesus' feet and heard his word. But Martha was distracted with much serving, and she approached him and said, "Lord, do you not care that my sister has left me to serve alone? Therefore tell her to help me." And Jesus answered and said to her, "Martha, Martha, you are worried and troubled about many things, but one thing is needed, and Mary has chosen that good part which will not be taken away from her." So one thing is needed, and Mary has chosen that good part which will not be taken away from her. So I've titled my sermon as "The One Thing Necessary." There's one thing that is needed for our lives. And that's what Jesus is talking here in this whole story about Martha and Mary. Let me start with an illustration. There were two monks who were going on a pilgrimage, a holy pilgrimage, and as they were walking, they decided to only focus on God. Sometimes they were discussing about God. It was a long discussion that they were having and trying to keep their focus, their attention only on God. The other times, they were just very quiet as they were walking. They were silently meditating. They were trying to think about God as they quietly kept walking. And one day they just came to a river, and as they were about to cross the river, they saw a woman, a young woman who was standing there, dressed in her finery, in her fine clothes, and didn't know how to actually get across the river. So one of the monk, without much hesitation, he just carried that woman on his shoulders, and they crossed that ford, that river, and he dropped her on the other side, and they started walking. And then there was a silence for an hour. So it looked like both of them were, meditating on God as they agreed to, moments of silence, thinking about God, focusing on God, and on their holy pilgrimage. But after an hour, one of the monks broke the silence, and he started to complain. He started to murmur. He said, "You shouldn't have carried that woman. We are monks. You would have broken the commandment, one of the commandments, that we should not associate, even at a close distance with the opposite sex." And then he started to complain. He started to whine. And he said, "We have broken the rules of being a monk. This is not at all acceptable. It is needless for you to even carry that woman and put her across." And he went on and on and on and on. And the other monk silently listened, and finally he responded and said, "I let her down by the river an hour back. Why are you still carrying her?" So what are we carrying this morning? Are we carrying God's presence? Are we carrying, the peace of God in our lives? Is our focus, is our devotion towards God? Are we carrying unwanted worries, baggages, loads and loads of burdens, all the distractions that the world could offer to us? So the question is, what are we carrying today? Life is all about striking a perfect balance, the delicate balance, a very sensitive, delicate balance we all have to strike in life. It's all about how we focus, how we constantly be devoted to God. How we always set our hearts towards God. Whatever happens in our life, There could be many distractions that comes our way. But in spite of all the distractions, and how do we handle those distractions, and how we, maintain that delicate balance of setting our hearts always devoted to God, focused on God. So we are constantly being torn apart by two conflicting emotions, two conflicting feelings. One is being devoted to God. Another one is being distracted by the world. So the story of Mary and Martha deals with these two conflicting, opposing emotions. One being devoted to God, another being distracted. It's a very simple story, right? We have read that story over and over again, but there is a very profound message that Jesus leaves behind. And that's why it's recorded in the Gospel of Luke. It's a very, very profound message that Jesus is talking about. So let's come to these conflicting emotions, conflicting, opposing feeling that we are constantly dealing with. The feeling of devotion. Mary was a perfect picture of devotion, right? She's a perfect picture of focus, absolutely focused on Jesus. Calm, serene, waiting at Jesus' feet, listening to his very words. And there she is sitting at the feet of Jesus. We all like to be like Mary, don't we? We all want to be like that, right? So every time when you read about Mary, you find Mary has, in a sense, found the perfect place, a perfect place to be at the feet of Jesus. Always. The very next time in the Gospels when you read about Mary, it is when Lazarus dies, right? And Jesus comes to Bethany. He's right there at the entrance of the village. And Martha comes and tells Mary, the teacher has come. And then Mary runs, I'm sure you know the story. She runs to the place where Jesus was, and she falls at his feet and weeps. She falls at the feet of Jesus. And Jesus was moved. The Bible says he was moved in his heart and he wept. The next time you find Mary, come to John chapter 12. A great feast was thrown because Lazarus is resurrected. There's a banquet there. And all the friends were invited. All of Lazarus' friends. And everybody in Bethany is there in Lazarus' house. And where do you find Mary? Mary brought that precious ointment and she broke it at the feet of Jesus. A strong perfume, and she was wiping the feet of Jesus. And the Bible says the whole house was filled with the fragrance of that perfume. For some reason, we understand that Mary has found, the best place to be at the feet of Jesus. A picture of devotion. Her heart was always toward Jesus. She was always longing to be in his presence. I'm sure we all have a genuine longing. We all want to be like Mary. We all want to have that intimate relationship with Jesus, don't we? We all want to experience his presence every time when we come to him. We want our prayer time to be a time where we dialogue with God. We want it to be meaningful. When we come to worship God, we want to express our true heartfelt worship to him. We want to feel him very close. We sang this beautiful song this morning. Draw me close to you. I'm sure you all sang with your heart. My heart exploded when I sang that song. Because that's our message this morning. You're all I want. You're all I need. I want to be in that place of ardent devotion. I know there are so many things that stops me. There are so many hindrances I feel. I may not be able to see it, but I feel it. But the ideal place where I want to be is in your presence. Draw me. You're all I need. I know we all have a longing in our hearts to be devoted. And Mary is a perfect picture of devotion. Always at the feet of Jesus. Waiting, so calm, so peaceful. Listening to Jesus' words. Right? The word devotion is all about, the root word means taking a vow. You can probably think of the day when you got married. The vow that you made before God. Vow to hold on to your wife faithfully because you know the importance of the decision that you're making. It's a sacred moment and you made that decision with all your heart. I will hold on to you. I will not let you go, come what may. And that's the kind of devotion, that we make with God. We hold on to Him. Irrespective of what happens in our life, we want to be devoted to Jesus. In a sense, we are His bride as well. He is our bridegroom. Right? So however, there is another constantly, haunting, opposing emotion, feeling that we battle with. That's the feeling of distraction. And Martha is a perfect picture of distraction. She's worried, she's upset, she's stressed, she's complaining, she's murmuring. To the extent she even goes to Jesus, "No, don't you even care about me?" Martha is a perfect picture of unrest. Somebody whose spirit is so, fluttered, unrest. And she is apparently unhappy. Okay. So that's the feeling that we constantly battle with. The feeling of distraction. The reason we are not able to focus totally on God, the reason why we are not able to be fully devoted to God is because for some reason we are not able to get rid of those distractions. Focus comes from getting rid of those distractions. When you eliminate those distractions from your unwanted distractions, unwanted baggages, impractical, not necessary, all those things, predicaments that you carry, when you're able to get rid of that, eliminate from your life, then you're able to focus on God. Then you're able to give your 100% devotion to God. The reason why we are not able to do that, we are not able to get rid of those distractions, right? Now, Jesus often spoke about that. A very familiar verse in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 6, verse 2. Jesus said, "Your eye is the lamp of the body. When your eye is good, your whole body is full of light. When your eye is evil, your whole body is full of darkness." If you actually read from the King James Version, it's very interesting. It says, "Your eye is the lamp of your body. When your eye is single," that's what the King James Version uses. It's very appropriate. When your eye is single, what does it mean by single? When you have a straight, right focus. Jesus is talking about your focus of life. You cannot have two different visions. I cannot see you at the same time, using my vision, trying to see another person. Your distracted vision, your vision is dysfunctional. You can't see two things at the same time. Your eye has to be single. You have to focus on one thing. Your vision has to be single. And very next to us, it makes it even more beautiful. No man can serve two masters. You cannot serve God and money. You will either be devoted to one and despise the other. He's talking about devotion. And how can you be devoted to the things of God, the things that has eternal value in life? Only when your eye is single. When you have a single focus. When you have a distracted, dysfunctional vision, you will not be able to be devoted to one. That's what Jesus is saying. So, hence we have this struggle, this opposing, constant, nagging feeling that we want to be devoted to God. At the same time, we are not able to handle our distractions. Hence, we are torn with this two opposing, contradicting emotions. It's part of our nature. It's part of our existence. It's part of our life. Sometimes you are like Martha. Sometimes you are like Mary. And most of the times we are a combination of both. We are a bit of Martha and we are a bit of Mary. But Jesus addresses this conflict, this inward conflict that all of us are struggling with. And Jesus addresses it so beautifully, and he says that in one word. That's the message. It's a very simple message. And Jesus says, only one thing is necessary for you. Martha, dear Martha, there's only one thing that you need. And you know what is that? He says, you need me. You need my presence. God's presence every day in your life. Every day in your life. In a sense, that's what Jesus is telling you. You know what? You can't do anything without me being first in your life. You have to seek me first. I'm not stopping you from doing the things that you're doing. I'm not stopping. I'm not saying, that's wrong. I'm not saying you shouldn't be doing. I'm not saying that is unimportant. But you need me first in your life. I should be the first. I should be your first priority. So God's presence in our everyday life, that's what Jesus is telling Martha here. There's only one thing that you need. Your whole life will get to that balance. Your whole life can turn upside down. You can get rid of all those distractions, all those heaviness, all those complaining, all those burdens that you're carrying. All that you need is me. Putting God first in our list. I'm sure we have a lot of things to do. I'm sure we have a lot of responsibilities. All those responsibilities are very important. I'm not saying they're not important. They are very, very important. You have earthly responsibilities. You have a responsibility as a husband. You have a responsibility as a wife. And as a father to take care of the family. We have work. We have so many other responsibilities. A whole lot of things you can list it out. I don't know if you have a habit of writing a planner, listing out the things that you have to do for the day. Right? I've already got my planner for 2021. Last week I went and bought. I can't wait to plan for 2021. 2020 is just gone with the wind. So it's there, here, I'm waiting, I'm trying to plan what is God going to do in 2021. We are all hopeful for a better tomorrow, right? I do try to plan my day. I have a planner, and I write down. Ben does that. We just try to list down the things that we need to do for the day. There are a whole lot of things we try to list down, try to make sure that we do it for the day. It's important. Whether you have a planner, you list it down or you don't list it down. It doesn't matter. But we have a lot of things to do on our list. But Jesus is saying, put me first on your list. Put me first on your list. That's what Jesus is trying to tell Martha. Martha, there's only one thing that you need. Everything else is immaterial. It will take care of itself. If only you should come to me. If only you would come to my presence. If only you would prioritize me in your life. If I become the first priority in your life. That's what Jesus is saying. It's a very simple message. It's a very simple message. That's what Jesus is saying here. First, come to me. So 2 things we are going to address this morning, and then we close. I want to keep my message short. The 2 things we are going to address is, one is Martha's problem, another one is Mary's choice. Martha's problem and Mary's choice. So what is Martha's real problem? What is Martha's real problem? Luke chapter 10, verse 40. Now Martha was distracted with much serving, and she approached him and said, Lord, do you not care that my sister has left me to serve alone? Therefore tell her to help me. Now, I'm sure you all know the story. Jesus is on his way to Jerusalem. He's not alone. He's with his 12 disciples. It's there in the story, right? Jesus is on his way to Jerusalem. And as he's going on his way to Jerusalem, he breaks his journey. That's because one woman, Martha, very generously, magnanimously opened her house and said, Jesus, you have to come to my house. The Bible very clearly says, Martha welcomed him into her house. It's Martha who welcomed. And we know that it's not just about Jesus, it's about his 12 disciples. And every one of them, all of them, you read the whole passage, all of them are going towards Jerusalem and everybody is there. She's apparently not cooking for just one person. She's cooking for 12 of them. So she knew that she is going to host all of them, right? But she has a generous heart. She has a heart of service. So we shouldn't be always painting Martha in a very bad picture. Martha wanted Jesus and the company to be there at her house because she loved to host them. But she brought them, and then they were there, and something happened, right? And as she was trying to engage them, all of a sudden, She begins to get edgy, begins to become nervous. She feels probably she wouldn't be able to serve them food on time. And then she begins to complain. She feels that her sister is not helping her. She's doing all the job by herself. And she feels that Jesus is also not. So all those things begin to bottle up within her feelings. She begins to get upset. She begins to get stressed out. And she becomes very unhappy. The very purpose of hosting Jesus in the house becomes defeated because she becomes complaining. Even Jesus, you're not bothered about me. So what is the real problem? What was Martha's real problem? I'll tell you what was not her real problem. Her problem was not in the kitchen. Her problem was not in the kitchen. It's not that she is really, she really doesn't want to do this. She loves cooking. She loves to serve. That's why much later, if you find in John chapter 12, where there is a bigger crowd. There's a bigger crowd because there is a huge banquet that is opened up for the entire village in honor of Jesus because Lazarus is resurrected. So a lot of friends, a lot of villagers, and everybody was there. And a very different Martha there. A very different Martha. So joyfully, still serving people. Still serving. That's her calling. That's what she's called to do. That's what God has called her to do. So there's nothing wrong with what she's doing at the moment, but the problem is she's not able to do joyfully. Something has happened to her. God has a specific purpose for each and every one of your lives. There's nothing wrong with where you are, what you're doing, the things that you're facing, the responsibilities that God has given. There's nothing wrong in that. That's what you're called for. God has placed you perfectly where you ought to be. The problem is you're not able to handle it. For some reason, you're not able to handle it. The same Martha you find in John chapter 12, serving a bigger crowd, a whole banquet, all of them there with Jesus, joyfully. Where do you find Mary? Mary was breaking the alabaster perfume and applying. So the problem is not in the kitchen. She loves to be in the kitchen. She loves to cook. She loves to serve. That's her heart. So the problem is not just being in the kitchen all alone. The problem is not with the crowd as well. She can handle 12 people. She can handle more than, it doesn't seem like, I wanted all of you with all good intention. I wanted to serve you. I brought you all to my house. But now it feels like it's getting too much on me. I'm not able to handle this, this whole, crowd and not able to serve all of you in time. It's not about the crowd as well because she can handle more than 12. She has done that. The problem is not with Mary as well. She's saying, she left me alone. She left me all by myself. No, you can handle it. It's just that something is wrong. You can handle that. The problem is not with Jesus either. They're saying, you know what? I think even you're unfair. And I'm doing all by myself and you're not even bothered about me. You should have probably told my sister to go back to the kitchen and help me. You don't seem to be bothered about me. So the blame is shifting from one person to another person. She's trying to find fault with everything that's around her. That's not the real problem. Sometimes that's what happens with life, We try to find fault with so many things that's happening around us. We try to handle our problems, very isolated manner. We just try to pick on things and, something doesn't happen to you. React in a different way, even to the people whom you love, family members. And sometimes you show that in your office and sometimes it's within yourself. You're rude to yourself. You try to treat yourself badly. So many things happens because you're not able to find out where the real problem is. Sometimes we try to find excuses. You know what the real problem is? The real problem is with Martha. Because she's missing the good part. That's the problem. That's what Jesus is simply saying. Martha, Martha, there is only one thing that's needed. Your problem is you're missing the good portion. You're missing me. That's the linchpin. That's what puts everything together in place in your life and my life. That's the key to resolve all those unspoken issues that we are battling with. It's to be in His presence. It's to come to Jesus first. So that's what Jesus is saying. So the real problem with Martha, or with most of us, is that we are missing the good portion. One thing that we need in life, that's God's presence every day. God is saying, let everything else wait. Let everything else wait. Let the food wait, let the lunch wait, or the dinner, let it wait. Let the people wait. Let your work wait. Let all those things that put everything in the back burner. Let it all wait. Let it all wait. Maybe God is speaking to some of you this morning, and God is saying, let everything else wait. Just put all things on hold. Just put it on hold. And just come to my presence. The first thing that you need to do is you have to come to me. You know what you're missing? You're missing me. You're missing me. That's what you need. That is the good part. That is what you need in your life. First priority. That's what Jesus is telling Martha. Let everything else wait, Martha. Come to me. So maybe we are struggling. Maybe we are finding it hard. Maybe we are distraught. Maybe we are troubled. Maybe, we are battling with so many issues. Maybe it's temptation. It is sin. Maybe you have a genuine desire to be devoted to God. You want to live a good Christian life. You want to please God every day. You're longing for that, but something you're not able to do. Somewhere there is a barrier that is stopping you from getting into that place. Constantly you're distracted. Your life is fragmented. You're not able to find yourself as a whole person coming to God. Today you can make a decision. Let everything else wait. Come to Jesus. Come into His presence. Make Jesus a conscious decision to make Jesus as your first priority every day in your lives. So Jesus says, Mary has chosen the good part. Luke chapter 10 verse 42. But one thing is needed, and Mary has chosen that good part which will not be taken away from her. The good part, the good portion. I want to spend a few minutes talking to you about the good part, the good portion, which will not be taken away from her. Let's try to understand what is that Jesus is talking here. The word, the good part or the good portion is an Old Testament usage. It's something that has a connection to the Old Testament. Well, let me try to explain this to you. When I'm sure Abraham had many sons, not just Isaac. He had married Keturah, and he had many sons through Keturah. And during his old age, the Bible says Abraham called all his extended family and his sons, and he gave them gifts. He gave them portions, and he sent them all to the east. And he said nobody will have a part with Isaac. The Bible says, to Isaac he gave everything. For the others he gave them portions that belonged to them and sent them away. But to Isaac he belonged to Abraham. So Abraham was Isaac's portion, which means everything that was there belonged to Isaac. He didn't say that, but he kept Isaac with him. But everybody else he sent away. He sent away Hagar, Ishmael. He sent away, Keturah and his sons, because this is the promise. This is the one who carries my heir. He is my descendant. He is the one who's promised by God. He belongs to me. He kept Isaac with him. So to Isaac it was Abraham. Everything belonged to Abraham, belonged to Isaac. Abraham was his portion. When God sent the children of Israel out of Egypt, He promised them Canaan. So Canaan was their portion. So all the 12 tribes, you read the story of Joshua, see, all the 12 tribes inherit that portion. Every one of them, 12 tribes. The land was divided into 12 tribes, and God gave each one of them. That's the whole story, isn't it? Why God had to call Abraham, why God had to choose him, why God had to choose Moses, why they have to bring all these 6 million people out of Egypt. Why all this? Because I promised to give you a land of your own, an inheritance. So it all happened when Joshua marshaled his armies to Canaan. They cast lots, and all the 12 tribes of Israel, as God promised Abraham, and thereafter Isaac, and Jacob, who became Israel, all the 12 tribes divided their land. It was their portion. But one tribe, God told Levi, you know what? I'm not going to give you any land because I will be your portion. You know that? Levites, the priests, did not possess any land, no physical possessions for them, because God said, I will be your portion. All that you need is me. The Bible says God was their inheritance. God was their portion. David understood this. A man after God's own heart understood the secret of making God his portion. A king. He knew he had everything in his life, but he made an honest confession. That's why you come across Psalms over and over again. David says, Lord, you are my portion. You maintain my lot. You are the one thing that I need in life. David understood. Let's read that in Psalm chapter 16. Let's turn to Psalm chapter 16. Verse 2. Psalm 16, verse 2. Oh my God, you have said to my Lord, you are my God, there is no good thing apart from you. How beautiful is that? There is nothing good in my life apart from you. Who's saying that? David. There's no good thing in my life. I think David should have had a way of saying that. It would have moved God's heart. A man who had everything, the entire kingdom. But he said, Lord, there is no good thing in my life apart from you. And in verse 5 he says, you are the portion of my inheritance. David understood that God is his only portion. What does it mean? It's somewhere we come to a place of understanding that everything else in this life is secondary. It's only God. It's only Jesus. He becomes the most important possession of your life. Your heart longs for Him every day. It's just not a song that you sing. Your spirit explodes. It just comes out crying every time when you come before God. You know, you are 100% sure in your life. You know that Jesus is your only portion. Every part of your life flows from that experience. Flows from that experience of carrying Him every day in your life. Knowing that He's the only one that you need. And everything that you do in your life flows out of that experience. For a moment when Martha showed up, she rammed out of her room in frustration. She was disappointed. She was upset. She was stressed. And there Mary was sitting right at the feet of Jesus. The moment when Jesus saw both of them, He had a glimpse into their heart, the real condition of their heart. Jesus saw both of their hearts. And He could see this one who's sitting right here. Her heart was fully absorbed in His presence. Jesus saw that she has discovered. Mary has discovered the only thing that she needs in life. As she is sitting at Jesus, Jesus saw that. Mary didn't say anything. Jesus saw that in her. He said, she has discovered and she has chosen that. She has come to realize that is the good portion. It's all about me. Mary has discovered that. And when He looked at Martha, He could see Martha's heart. And He knew what was missing. And Jesus is looking at your hearts this morning. He can look at every one of your hearts. There's nothing that's hidden from Him. He can see right through you. He can look into your hearts. And He can see the mess that is in it. He can see the void that is in it. He can see the stress and the things that is just crushing it. And He knows what is missing in your life. And all that Jesus is saying, that all that you need is me. All that you need is me. So that's the big idea. That's the big message. That's the thought that keeps recurring. There's nothing else to preach from this passage. I've chosen to preach this passage. I feel this is what God has laid in my heart. But there's nothing else to preach. What else should I preach? There's only one thing that you need. And that's the message. There's only one thing, that you need me. You need my presence. You make me as your priority. You put God first in your list. That's what Jesus is saying here. Do you have this good portion in your life? Have you discovered this good portion? Have you come to realize that that's what you need? If you have come to realize, you will be devoted to that. Are you devoted to that? Are you holding on to that every day? Have you made Jesus as your only priority? Have you come to this place to realize that your whole life revolves around Him, and everything else that you do is just secondary? Everything else you do, your work, your family, your children, your career, everything else flows out of that experience of holding Jesus so close to your heart. That's the good portion. When you have that, He takes care of everything. He takes care of everything. Sometimes we struggle to get to that place. You know what? Why? Because there are so many things we want in life we already have. In a sense, life offers us many things that makes us comfortable, that gives us, the kind of comfort that we need to go on in life. We are not desperate for God. We are not desperate. Every time when I go to Bengal, I look forward to the Sunday morning worship. People come from all over the place. They come, walking across the river, It's like there's a village that's across the river, and early morning they have to leave, and they walk all the way. They walk. They don't have a transportation. They don't have the money to pay for the transport, so they just walk and walk. They come and they cross the Damodar River. They come across the ford, and then they keep walking and walking and walking and walking. And they come to the church service. They attend the service, and by the time the service gets over, it's 1 o'clock, and then 2 o'clock they then start walking back home, and then they walk all the way again, cross the river, and by the time they reach home, it's 5 o'clock in the evening. So Jose asked me, Anna, is there any way we can give them food at the end of the service? Because most of them, the whole day they're not eating, because early morning they have to leave, they walk all the way to come to church, and by the time they go back home, walking all the way, crossing the river, it's 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock in the evening. The whole day they just come to worship God. And they come all over, everywhere, and they come on a Sunday morning. And when I look at them, it's an honest confession I'm making. I look at them, sometimes I really feel, Lord, I've been serving you for the last 17 years. I don't love them the way they do. I don't love you the way they do. When I look at the way they worship God, that they possess something that's far superior than what you and I sometimes claim to have. They don't have money. They don't have proper clothes. They are from the Adivasi community. They are an outcast community. They have nothing. They have no proper food. They live in their mud houses. They can't talk properly. But I know. But when you look at them, when you look at the way they worship God, and you look at the moment you start the song, you look at the tears flowing down their, streaming down their eyes. They possess something that's far more superior. Yes, I also have Jesus, but when you look at them, I know there's something so precious about their lives. To be very honest, sometimes when I listen to people's testimony, I listen to what they only when people speak, you know the depth of their walk with Jesus. We can judge people by their outward appearance. But when they open their mouth and they start to share their testimony, they start to share what Jesus means to them, man, sitting there, sometimes I feel I'm 100% sure they love Jesus more than I do. They have a deeper experience. They don't preach a sermon, but I know deep in my heart, they have a deeper experience. Jesus is much closer to them than to me. I'm very honest with you. Because you can see, when Jesus saw Mary, He knew that she possessed that. He knew that she discovered that. She chose, she embraced that. You can see people, that you're missing something. You know what, that's my prayer. Today morning I prayed that. Lord, I need you. I prayed that. When we came to that part, draw me close to you. I sincerely cried out to God, Lord, I want that. You're all I want. I bursted with all my being. I said, you're all I want. Because I'm also distracted. There are so many things that we carry, weighs us down, distracts us, worries us, troubles us. Though you have a genuine, sincere desire to be totally devoted to God, there are so many things that distracts us. But I'm very honest with you this morning. I want to be 100% succumb to that love. 100%. So people of God, that's all that we need. That's all that we need. And every part of your life flows from that experience of loving Jesus, being in His presence, seeking His face, telling Him every day, not just on a Sunday morning where you come and you sing that song, you're all I want. Not just every day, that will be the cry of your heart. And you know that you've discovered that good portion. So there's only one thing that you need. That's only one thing that you need. And Mary has chosen that good part. This morning I want to ask you, have you chosen that good part? Can you really, sincerely, truly, with all your heart, can you say that you have that in you? That's the answer. Jesus is trying to address to the inward conflict. That's the simple answer. That's the simple answer. We need that good portion. I'm just going to recap the sermon. We are done with it. I'm not going to preach anymore. Why should we choose that good part? Why should we choose His presence in our life every day? I'm just going to give you 3 points. It's just recapping of what I said. I'm not going to preach on it. Because only God is interested in the small details of your life. Only God is interested in the small details of your life. If you come and tell me, about a fight that is going on over a cooking meal between two sisters, I wouldn't even be interested. But silly. If you talk to me about a young boy who wants to come and serve God, I would be excited. That's me. But thank goodness, God is not like me. He would be interested even in the small details about your life. Very minute, small details of your life. He's interested in what is happening in Martha's heart. He's interested with the turmoil, with the struggle, with the questions that she's battling, with the stress that she's going through. He's interested. He's interested with every detail of your life. That's why you can take it to Jesus. Only God is interested. That is why you need to go to Him. That's why you need to tell Him. Every small, that's what I often say. That's what, my experience with Jesus is not for big things, even for the small things. Even, when I try to send a mail, I want to pray, Lord, I just can't do it without you. I can mess it up. A mail can mess up the whole thing that I'm trying to do because I'm involved in so many programs and projects. If I have a small meeting with my discussion with my missionaries, I want to pray and ask God, Lord, I want you to be part of this meeting, because I know I'm dependent on you. Without you, I'm just going to mess it up. I may not be able to say what I'm supposed to say. I would miss you. Even if it's a 5-minute prayer that I'm praying for somebody, I want to make sure, Lord, I need you because I can't pray this prayer. I cannot generate these emotions, this compassion, this feeling that I need. Only you can help me to do that. It's not just for a 1-hour message, and you can understand how desperate I am, for God, for a message that I'm preaching for close to 45 minutes. It's not just about a Sunday morning sermon. It's for everything. I'm telling God, Lord, I'm dependent on you. I just can't make it without you. Even if it is a 2-minute prayer, if it's for somebody who's sick, I want to ask God, Lord, I need your help. I can't do it. Because I'm 100% sure that God is interested in even the small details of your life. Only God can address our real problem. I tell you, only God can address your real problem. Most of you do not know what your real problem is. And sometimes we don't have the humility to accept our real problem. We try to put up a facade. We try to blame others. Even when somebody try to even attempt to tell you what your real problem is, even get to that place, you resist. That's what most of us are. That's how most of us are. That's how Martha is. I tell you, you cannot find out what your real problem is. But I want to tell you, everybody have a problem. All of us have a problem. And the good news is that I have a problem. You have a problem. You are not alone. All of us have a problem. And the bad news is that you don't know what your problem is. You don't know what your real problem is. You're trying to assume that this is my problem because somebody treated me like this and this is my problem. Because I'm going through the stress in my work, this is my problem. Because I'm not able to do this is my problem. No. You don't know what your real problem is. You go to Jesus, He'll tell you what your real problem is. And Jesus answered and said to her, this beautiful Martha, dear Martha, Jesus answers. Go to Jesus. Don't go with the spirit of grievance. Don't go with the spirit. Go with the spirit of openness because He's going to answer. He's going to speak into your life. He's going to put His finger right on that issue and tell you what exactly you need. You can trust Him. You don't have to trust me. You can trust Him. Jesus answered to her. What if, just imagine this story, right? It's pretty common. Most of us could have done that. Just imagine this story. I'm not going to even go and tell them how I feel. Even Jesus don't understand what I'm going through. I'm going to just cook this whole thing all by myself and serve them. And wouldn't speak a word how I felt about it. And then Martha went ahead and did everything that she could do. She was totally upset. The whole thing that happened. She was even upset with Jesus because Jesus didn't really care that she was doing all by herself. But she made sure that she cooked everything and all of them left and she went back to her room with her face hung, her heart sinking and carrying all. Do you like that story? At least in one thing she was honest. She was honest with God. She went and told, I feel wretched. I'm even upset about you. I don't even know if you care about me either. You're so unfair. Just read to your versions. The NLT says, you are so unfair. So come to God with an open heart. It's okay. Don't hide yourself. Why are you trying to hide yourself? Just be real about who you are. Be real about your struggles. So only God can address your real problem. Your real problem. I may not know your real problem, but Jesus knows. Only God can change us for the better. Only God can change us for the better. You think you are not good. You think you are not cut out for this. You think you're not called for this. No. That's not true. That's not true. You're in the perfect place. God knows what He's doing with your life. He knows what He has entrusted into your hands. He knows the kind of responsibilities that is given to you. He knows that you can handle it. Just turn to John chapter 12. See how well she handles it. See how well she handles a huge crowd, a much bigger crowd. The whole of Bethany has come to see Lazarus sitting alive. The uninvited guests are also, the people who are not invited also is coming in. You can handle it. You can handle it. That is why God chose you for. That's why God called you for. You're called, you are called for that. You're not able to do it because of your problem. You just need one thing. To take that good part, you can handle all your problems with ease. You will just sail through. All that troubles, the anxieties, those stress, all those unhappiness will just go out of that window. You will be so content. You will be so peaceful. There will be a calmness that will settle over you. And you will be radiating the presence of Jesus wherever you're going. Only God can do that in your life. God can change us for the better. So God bless you. That's my message for us. There's only one thing that we need, and that we need Jesus more than ever before. We need Him.